there are videos and photos freshly come out of the prison that Peter was at, showing riots.
Can't be me.
Phone's on silent, please. Dismemberment, beheadings, beating hearts, you name it.
It's from Ecuador, by the way, people.
Because of community guidelines, we cannot show these videos. But we're going to watch them. Peter is going to describe exactly who these characters are, what's happening in relation to his life story. And me and David are going to... You can see our reactions.
Just trying to find the
And
first
then,
one.
for part 2 of this pod, we're going to go over to the combination of worlds. Foreign drug traffickers meet in ones of prison and finally relax after the insanity and the hardcoreness of where they'd previously been. David, Thailand. Peter, Ecuador.
And something of a coincidence, but was it? Because, they all say there's 6 degrees between two people on Earth anywhere. But in Wandsworth held almost 2,000 people. And yet we met, even though we were only on the same section quite briefly. So, but it was after, as you say, all our troubles elsewhere, which haunt us to this day,
We also have
forgiven.
a synchronicity of nicknames, because we learned in Peter Part 2 that he had a nickname associated with the Grim Reaper.
Yeah, Grim Peter.
Grim Peter. And we also know that David is the Grim Reaper's appointment keeper.
Really?
Oh, yeah, somebody gave that. The Grim Reaper's diary keeper or something, somebody said. Well, it's better than being the pox Dr. Clark. That's got to be something to be said for it. But this is kind of a news flash in a way, because it should still be fresh in your memory that there were riots in Ecuador over, 3 or 7 prisons?
4 prisons.
4 prisons.
Last week, starting on February the 23rd.
And what happens in a riot, isn't it, that people... Okay, there's very little guards' input in Ecuadorian prison anyway.
The guards all fled the scene. I think for every 350 prisoners, which is like which each wing holds, there were 2 or 3 guards unarmed, whereas the prisoners are 350 strong and armed.
It does seem a bit kind of reverse, doesn't it?
So they don't stand much chance, really. So they fled the scene rather quickly and let everyone get on with the butchery, which ensued.
Well, it's an opportunity for people to settle scores without even any witnesses.
There's a picture of the weaponry that was seized, which is featured in quite a few newspapers. And
I'll forward these to you, James, so we can just put in what we can put in.
It looked a bit homemade.
A lot of these. You remember in the previous interview, I was talking about the light fitting in each cell.
Yeah.
When I first arrived in one of these new prisons, that was a means of getting metal, because it's got a reflector behind it. So they were breaking the light fittings out and getting the reflectors out, which are thin aluminium, and then reshaping them into machetes like these.
Machetes, look at the size of them.
I mean, they're the size of my
arm. It might have been thin, but it must have held up pretty well, doesn't it?
Yeah. And also, wherever the other, the metal reinforcing rods in the structure of the building, the bars off the doors, bits of steel off the any metal really.
Did you feel the necessity to be armed because everyone else was armed?
Yeah.
Did you have to buy in on that one, or just was, as you say,
didn't
necessary?
have to, but I mean, at times you definitely had to be. So it was necessary. I mean, you can see there's 2 handguns down the front there as well that they seized. That's 2.
They look in pretty good condition, obviously, lovingly taken care of, well oiled.
Telephones. I don't know what they're showing.
I suppose
there's
they
a row
are,
of telephones there.
Technically illegal.
What, handguns?
No. I'll assume that. But no, the phones.
Yeah. The problem is in these prisons, there's no pay phones. So there's no means of contacting your family. So they've in the way that they've built the prison, they're creating problems. You know?
Mind you, they always do, don't they?
Yeah, I suppose that's what they're for.
But even the tobacco ban, a friend in Australia said that a packet of cigarettes there costs 500 Australian dollars.
Wow.
Well, in American prisons, I mean, I don't know, but you would know, brother.
Well, they were smokers allowed back then,
Oh, were
but
they?
now since then it's changed. I think
Yeah, I heard
How's
they're
the black
expensive there as
market?
well.
it must have gone through the roof. Everything goes through the roof, doesn't it, when they create black
In
markets?
fact, talking of which, a friend of mine sent me a photograph in here of post riot what $20 in the prison could buy, and it was literally some bread and a bottle of Coke
Yeah.
because the prison had stopped supplying the food. Some of my friends that I've spoken to they've been fed twice in a week.
We've seen these conditions come about because of the pandemic and riots all over the world. Is that what's happened here?
That is part of the problem as well. But I mean, these riots have come about mainly because the main gang leader out there, who was called Hot Ellie or JL, or nickname of Raskina, which means itchy. Don't know why. But anyway, he was killed on December the 28th. He was the leader of the Choneros, Jorge Luis Zambrano, who I was in prison with, which I've mentioned on another podcast or interview. I was actually just trying to find the footage of him getting shot. He was shot in a cafeteria in Manta.
When you say cafeteria, what, within a
restaurant.
prison?
No.
Oh,
He'd been
okay.
released.
Right.
He'd only been out a couple of months, and of course, having plenty of enemies, he was shot by a Colombian assassin who was brought in just for the job, basically.
That gang you were talking about just before, how were they confined just to Ecuador or
Choneros.
Yeah. Stretched
The name comes from a town called Choni, hence Choneros.
Yeah, right.
Which is again on the coast, further up from Guayaquil towards Manta. That's where they started, and you know, as time's gone on, it's just tit for tat, and then families become involved, and then other gangs. You know, you've got the Latin Kings there, Los Lobos, Choni Killers, real friendly sounding bunch, and so on and so forth.
And what is the rivalry would be as strong as the unending hatred between, say, biker gangs or something like that?
Or say between the Russian and Italian mafia, something like that.
But probably even worse being when they're confined.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when I was in prison there, in the main prison in Guayaquil, which that I was first sent to, they had them sort of separated. It was one half of the prison was one gang, and the other half was another gang. So they'd have sort of shootouts across like a no man's land, which they called the frontier of the border. That was until this third gang came in, the Choneros, who ended up on my wing, or the wing I was on, which ended up in a 2-hour-long gunfight and 2 people getting killed. And it was the boss that I just described, Hot Ellie, who they were trying to kill on that occasion. So with his death, it's created a power vacuum between the gangs, so they're all vying for control now.
Would it be, just to get the idea of the structure of it, okay, there's a kind of criminal gang and their line of work,